Welcome to the Journey to Happy podcast, where you get concrete tools for mindset work, my best tips for lowering your anxiety. And you also hear funny and encouraging stories from me and others who have stories to share. Around here, you'll discover the easy way to stop overthinking, to get rid of self doubt, and finally embrace a calmer, more confident you. I am Olga, your host, a former therapist, a life coach, wife, blissfully an IVF mother, and a coffee lover. I'm excited that you tune in today, and I'm honored to be on the journey with you. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Journey to Happy podcast. I'm Olga, your host, and as always, I am just happy to be here sharing with you. Today, I'm going to be talking about owning our results and also how to not own the results of somebody else. But before I dive into that, I wanted to briefly read you some messages that I've gotten from people who listened to my episode on Out of Overwhelm, an episode in the podcast that has all the information about how to walk yourself out of that feeling of overwhelm. So if that is you, you can definitely jump into that one. Her name is Genevieve, and she said this one felt probably the most relatable episode for me so far. I felt like I was your muse. I think the fact that you explained the two types of personalities made me feel like I was not alone. So it was not just the tools, but the acceptance, if that makes sense. And somebody else said, I love that this podcast, it resonated with me deeply. I am working at not being overwhelmed and knowing the tools, it's going to help me hugely. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Genevieve, for giving me this feedback. I love listening from people's feedback when they listen to the episodes, because you guys, I have recorded this entirely by myself in my office. So I know it's going out, but I love when I know the impact that listening to this podcast has. And that one in particular, I even heard from my sister, who I didn't even know listens to my podcast. And she told me how it helped her just calm her anxiety down with the returning back to work. All of that just to say thank you. I absolutely love and I appreciate when I can hear back from you guys. So if you want to leave me a review after an episode that really spoke to you, I would love to hear from you. Also, come over to Instagram at olgas.way. You will find me and you can DM me, and I promise you I will answer back. That is one of the things that I do personally to this date. I don't delegate. I respond to all my messages myself. So we'll love to get to know you. Okay, let's dive in. Owning the results of our results, and then letting go of owning somebody else's results. This came out of a one-on-one session I had with a client this week. And I thought, you know what? I struggled with that once upon a time. I have coached on this subject several times. And so maybe it is something that I will bring to the podcast. And so that's what I'm doing. This will be brief as well, but it will be powerful. So listen up. The first thing I want you to become aware of is that when it comes to results, you have to identify what those are. In my line of coaching, our results is the status of our mental health, the status of our emotional well-being, the job we have, the quality of the relationships we have, and just about anything that has to do with your lifestyle, with how you feel in your life experience. Those are the results. So when I say the results and that you are responsible for your results, I'm talking about all those things combined. So I want you to look at your life right at this moment. Take just inventory of the status of your intimate relationships, the status of your relationship with your work, the status of the relationship with your mental health, with your health. And as you're going through that inventory, judgment free, simply know to yourself, am I happy with that status? Yes or no? It's just a quick yes or no. So let's say you go through that. I had a client this week who was extremely unhappy with her results in terms of her relationship with her job. She's feeling extremely overwhelmed. And she said throughout our conversation several times, I am on the verge of a massive breakdown. I feel overwhelmed by my job. I am not going to be able to continue to do my job. And so she said it several times. When she explained why that was, and she actually used these words, which I loved, I am owning the result of my coworkers, and I don't have the control of their results. So this woman goes to her job, and rather than worrying on her results of her own job, she worries about obtaining results for her coworkers, for her clients. It brought me back to my first 2 years as a social worker. So I'll tell you a little story time with Olga. And then we go back to what do we do about it? The moment that we don't take responsibility for our results, we still need to be occupied being responsible for something. And often we take the responsibility of somebody else's results. The problem is that you have zero control over somebody else's results. As service providers, as teachers, as coaches, as doctors, we take pride in our job based on our patients, clients, students' results. If they do well, we say, hey, I did a good job. If they don't do well, we say, crap, I didn't do a good job. That's the risk that we take when we own somebody else's results. We make the results mean something about who we are and our results, when the two will never combine. I am the best coach that I can be. Every morning before I set myself to coach, even in my non-coaching weeks, I'm still developing work about my coaching. I'm writing a newsletter or I'm recording this podcast. And I'm thinking, how can I show up as the dream coach? My results that I'm responsible for is to show up as the dream coach to my ideal client. Not a dream coach to everybody. That's impossible. To my ideal client. When I ask myself that question, I get to own my mental health, my physical health, my boundaries with my work, because those things support me and allow me to show up as a dream coach. The coach who is genuine, who is healthy first and foremost, who is not neglecting herself for the sake of making another buck or pleasing her clients. The dream coach has understood, in my opinion, that my results are independent of my clients' results. And I've mentioned it before in other podcasts. I am 100% invested in my clients' results. I want nothing but for my client to see the results come through. But I also understand fully that I have nothing to do with what they do and do not do. All I can do for my clients and my level of investment in their results fuels me and motivates me to show up as the best me, if that makes sense. So when I say story time, and I deviated from that, let me take you to my first 2 years as a social worker. This client reminded me of that, the way she was owning the results of her coworkers and of her clients. She was stressing so much about them not doing the thing the way the best they could, that will bring them their happy results. That she was taking this home, and she is, like she said, on the verge of burnout. That was me. Many, many moons ago, I worked as a child protection worker. I had just graduated from university, and I had nothing but the best intention for the families that I work with. I wanted to have strong, healthy families in this city, and that was my intention. And so what I did, I overdid. I wanted them to have the best possible results for themselves. I wanted it more than they wanted it for themselves. In a previous episode, I shared with you guys that I am 100% committed to my clients' results, but I cannot want it more than they do. And when I find that's the scenario, I let go of my client because I want them to want it equally as bad. No, there's something wrong if I want it more than they do. If I want their marriage to be happy more than they do. if I want them to make it to that promotion more than they do, if I want them to have the freedom of owning their own business more than they do. But 23-year-old Olga, who had just graduated, who wanted to be Superman, Superwoman to these clients, who wanted to save the world, it's the most genuine way of wanting to help others when we think we are in control of over their results. But it's also very naive, immature, and it leads to burnout. So for the first 2 years of me as a child protection worker, I would drive my clients in and back from groceries to ensure that they had food for their children. I would drive my clients to their doctor's appointments so that I could document that they in fact went to the doctor appointment that was a requisite for them to continue to have custody of their children, that they were taking care of their mental health. I would buy them groceries. I would give them bus tickets to ensure I did all the things. And while I was doing the things, they were getting the results. But if I was off on vacation, all hell will break loose and their family life will go back to their choices, their results, what they were choosing for themselves, which was far from what I needed them to do for me to stay out of their lives. If you add that level of investment, that level of stress and involvement to 30 families that one social worker had under her caseload, you may imagine that my working hours were way past the 7-hour day. I would forget to take my lunch. I would come home sometimes at 8 p.m., 9 p.m. after having left the house at 7 with a massive migraine, and only then remember that I had not eaten throughout the day anything. 2 years of that brought me to the scariest burnout, and the only burnout, I can probably say it only, that I have ever experienced. I had intense anxiety. I had fear of my own shadow. I would have described that I didn't know who I was anymore, and that was terrifying. I honestly can say I felt my brain, my mind went to a point of no return. I was so very close to quitting my job as a social worker altogether, of helping. I wanted to toss that idea out the window 2 years into my profession because I felt incapable of doing my job, only owning my results and not owning somebody else's results. Here's what I learned, you guys. When we own other people's results, we're immediately dropping responsibility for our results. So it's what I was saying earlier. When you don't own the responsibility of your results, your focus is on somebody else's results. And that's frustrating because you don't have the actual ability to control anybody else's results. So I came back from sick leave into my job and I stayed in the job for another 8 years. Yes, I moved different jobs and I moved up the ladder until I made it to the position I really liked having, to realize I didn't really like it, and opened Olga's Way. I was able to stay doing my job because I learned a very, very valuable lesson, which I'm hoping to share here with you. All I ever own and I'm responsible for are my own results. And if I can keep my focus on that, that will keep me busy because it's not easy work to stay on track of my results. So I reviewed my life like I just asked you. And I was very aware that if I didn't like something, it's because I had made choices that led me to that result. And therefore, I had the ability to re-choose again. What would I like to choose then so that I get the results that I want? And I'm asking you to do this job backwards because that's how I've done it. So I wanted to continue to have this job because I wanted to be stronger than my inability. And so I said, I can stay in this job, but I will need to change a few beliefs and a few ways in which I do things so that the job doesn't overwhelm me again. And my first contract with myself was that I was never again going to ignore and neglect myself. And I took that to heart. And I set clear boundaries when I started working, when I finished working. I knew what my results were and how to provide those. And I easily let go of the results of my clients. I let them decide for themselves, but I did do this. I held a strong belief that every single one of them had what it took to make positive changes in their lives, that they were capable, so capable, they did not need me to take care of their results. And if that their results were what opposite to what I wanted for them, that they would have what it takes to overcome or to live through the consequences of their choices. That gave me freedom. Not only gave me freedom, it made me a more approachable social worker. Because now I had an open agenda. What are your choices? What are your own results? And I held this belief that I still hold for all of my clients, that they're capable beyond measure. And me holding that belief for somebody else, no matter who that is, whether it's my husband, my mother-in-law, my client, gives us, me and that person, a relationship of empowerment and respect. So if you're the person who is holding responsibility for somebody else's results, know that you're also believing that they're not capable. Know that you're neglecting the responsibility of your own results, which should keep you occupied. You won't have time or energy to think about anybody else's results if you're fully focused on your results, making sure that you're optimally making it to all of your results, whatever those are. So how do you begin to cut the line? How do you differentiate? You feel empowered and motivated when you're working towards your own results. So be clear, okay? Have clear clarity on what results you want to see in your life. I want to be mentally calm. That's a result. I want to feel independent. I want to have time for myself. And of course, that follows by clear boundaries. Boundaries are a sense of respect for self and others. And all we get to do from then on is reinforce those boundaries. I only work from this time to this time. If you want to communicate with me, call me between those hours. I won't own what doesn't belong to me. And that becomes a lot easier once you understand what your results are and how they differ from their results. When a client tells me, Olga, I would have never been able to do this without you, my ego loves it. And I always bring it back to them. You did the work. I turned on the lights in the room. That's all I did. I brought you clarity. I helped you learn how to turn on the lights. And with that light, you did something. You cannot say I did it. And I don't let that go to myself as like, yes, that was my accomplishment. My clients' results are their own work, not mine. My results are my work. I am a much more confident, assertive coach now that I know what my results are, now that I've committed to them, and I have released my clients from my expectations of their results, meaning something about me. Also, when a client, and this is the freedom of thinking this way, if a client ever said to me, I don't like your work, this doesn't agree with me, I don't take that personally. I know I showed up with integrity. I know I'm doing the things that make me feel proud of my results. It's not that I stopped taking feedback. Of course, I'm always open to feedback. I'm always asking you guys, what did you think about it? What will you improve? And I hear that. But ultimately, if a client goes through a coaching session with me for 6 months and they don't make it to their results, my question will be, did I show up? Did I do the work? Did I call them out? If I can answer yes to that, then I release their feeling of not having made it to their goal, because did they show up? Did they do the work? Showing up to the sessions is one tiny little part of the coaching work. Is what you do after the sessions that make this come together. And that I don't own. I don't go to their homes. I don't make sure that they're having the conversations, that they're challenging themselves. All I can do is keep them accountable, but it's up to them. And if the client doesn't show up to the call, I can coach you. Those are not my results. I showed up. So I want you guys to behave in ways that you feel proud of yourself, that you feel I am fulfilling my own expectations to get to my results. And that you release owning the results of somebody else, because that leads to exhaustion, to burnout. to unhappiness, to frustration. Grow confidence in your ability to make your results come true and stick with commitment to see those results come through. Just trust that they will. You have to believe that they will. And you have to begin to understand that what's in everybody's best interest, you included, is to release your need to hold on to the responsibility of somebody else's results, even if that's your children, your dependent. All I can do is show up as best mom that I can. I release the results that my son does. Of course, the things that are in my hands to do, I do, and I do it to the best of my ability. But everybody makes choices, and those choices lead us to our results. If anybody is unhappy with their results, they gotta take a look at their choices. So I want you to make that correlation. Your results today are like strictly linked to your choices. Your choices are strictly linked to your beliefs, what you believe about yourself, what you believe it to be possible or not. If you don't like the results, what you're seeing, what you're feeling, what you're experiencing, do the backwards work. My husband and I, when we first got together, we made a decision. And that was we were going to lead the lifestyle of the retired people. We just liked it. We saw retired people, we're like, oh man, it must be so nice to have that lifestyle. They get up, they might exercise, they might go golfing. Weekends can be during the week. And during the week, they might be doing, weekends, they might do things that usually people do during the week. And although we were both, he was working for his dad's furniture store in the process of owning it, and I was working at this child welfare agency. That seems so far of a reality, but we decided that that was our goal, that we were going to work towards creating that lifestyle for ourselves and not just look for the job and then create our lifestyle around that job. Now, we're both self-employed. He started his business as a realtor, and I started All Guest Way. We did this simultaneously, and we enjoyed it. And we were having weekends on a Wednesday, Thursday, if he had to work weekends. I would run workshops on the weekend, which meant then Monday, Tuesday, we'll take it off. We began to enjoy what it was like to have set that goal and to enjoy the results of that work. We, to this date, have been living the life of the retired couple for close to 8 years. Now that our son is in Montessori, we're beginning to feel the structure from an outside source that is not our own made source. Like he goes to school at this time and until this time. There are clear weekends. But even then, we're willing to not bring him to school if we're ever needing to take the weekend during the week. We often run into the retired people at breakfast during that Wednesday morning. And we're okay. We love it. That's the lifestyle we wanted to create. So when I look at my results, I'm so freaking proud and happy of what we've built because that's exactly what we wanted to experience. So again, you do the work backwards. What results would you like to see? And then trust the process to get there, but be unforgivable about committing to your belief that that can come through your life. And it will. You will make sure it does because that's what you're responsible for. You own that responsibility. So to end this podcast, if you so feel called to do so, grab a pen and a paper and write your name. Your name. I'm responsible for my results. And then figure out what those results are. And spell them out. Each of them. Commit to them. And focus solely on them. Stop thinking and looking at what else anybody else is doing and how to own the results and stress yourself out and focus on you. You got this. If this is helpful, please come back and tell me. If you think somebody else needs to listen to this podcast, please share it. The more the merrier, the more people that have clean, strong mindsets, the better this planet will be. I promise you that. Sure, you know that. So don't just keep it to yourself. If you think this is something that more people should be listening to, share. Also, guys, when you leave me a review, when you subscribe to my podcast, guest speakers look at those numbers, and based on that, they make their decision whether or not they can come as a guest. So you'll be doing me and yourself a huge favor by dropping me a review, genuine review, and by subscribing. All right, that's it for now. I'll catch you guys up next Monday. Just as a small reminder, I am opening up seats for becoming the CEO of your own life, my 12-month coaching program. It is by far the best coaching program I offer. This is going to be with a group of 12 women all over the world. We meet 3 times a month, 2 as a group, 1 as a one-on-one. So it gives you a hybrid between group and one-on-one. And the doors will begin January. So we are meeting January to December. But we're opening the doors for registration and applications. I review the applications very carefully. I love knowing who I'm working with, and I want to make sure that it's a perfect group, and perfect in the sense that we're just same energy. October and November. The application is only open for 7 days, you guys. So end of October, starting November. And then we're closing the doors. If you feel called to work with me, if you're thinking mindset is important, if you have your own goals of leadership and want to be a strong, powerful CEO of your own life or your company, this is the coaching program for you. I'd love to get to know you. So head over to my website. You'll find all the information in there. And I cannot wait to see your application come through. Talk to you soon.